Welcome to the Inspiring Marriages Podcast. We are Jeff and Teresa Fields, and we are thrilled to have you with us today. The incredible music that you heard in our intro was the incredible work of our very own son, Joseph Taylor Fields.
We've been happily married for 32 amazing years. Along the way, we've been blessed by 3 incredible children. And we have a fantastic son-in-law and the most precious grandbaby you could imagine.
Get ready to be inspired. As you open up about our journey, our mission is to ignite a spark in couples everywhere. We're all about nurturing deep friendship and cultivating marriages that thrive in every way. Spiritually, emotionally, romantically, and physically. Join us on this incredible adventure.
Be sure to check out our website at inspiringmarriages.net. Dive into all our previous episodes with detailed show notes that will enrich your listening experience. Plus, scroll down to find our Keep in Touch section where you can sign up and receive our latest offerings absolutely free. That's right. And don't miss out on the inspiration. Visit us today.
This week, we're continuing our series about intellectual intimacy. There are 4 areas of intimacy. There is the spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and physical. Intellectual involves deep conversations and shared ideas. Mm-hmm. Our definition of marriage is a man and a woman, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and physically intimate, working together in a shared life to help each other realize their visions and dreams, walking with God to fulfill their callings and goals. Our definition of intimacy is intimacy, a profound connection built on trust and mutual respect, where the deepest thoughts and emotions are shared openly without hesitation or fear of judgment. It is a space where vulnerability is met with understanding and true closeness flourishes spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. Today we're going to talk about we're going to give you 6 tips on how to nurture your intellectual intimacy. We're calling this mindful connections, nurturing intellectual intimacy in love. Nurturing intellectual intimacy in marriage is crucial for fostering a deep and lasting connection in marriage. Intellectual intimacy involves sharing thoughts, ideas, and meaningful conversations that stimulate both minds. When couples engage in honest dialogues about their interests, dreams, and viewpoints, they create an environment of mutual respect and understanding. I think that's a great goal for all couples to have, is just mutual respect and understanding.
Yes,
Isn't
I
Teresa?
love that. Yes. It's really kind of lost in today's culture. It's just kind of, what about me? That's always a tendency for people in the world. But, if you're a Christian and you have a Christian marriage and a Christian home, you really need to have mutual respect for one another, because everything in your life is based out of what you're doing in your home. And
right.
We know a ministry that really emphasizes this. Anything you're doing in life, it's rooted in how you're treating one another and how you're living together in harmony or not, in your home. And that's so important. So we have a quote from Ezra Taft Benson. So listen to this. Strong families cultivate an attribute of effective communication. They talk out their problems. They make plans together. And they cooperate together towards common objectives. That's so important. Families don't need to be splintered and going in all different directions. We really need to be cohesive and working together. And you can't really work together until you talk about what is going well, what's not going well, and how can we make plans to improve, all of our activities and what we need to do together and what we do separately in different places, and how to make sure we're coming together as a family and building each other up.
That's so good.
This not only enhances emotional bonds, but also promotes a sense of partnership and collaboration. By prioritizing intellectual growth together, couples can navigate life's challenges with a shared perspective, ultimately strengthening their relationship and ensuring that it remains dynamic and fulfilling.
Oh, that's so good, Teresa. Now, before we started studying and researching this topic of intellectual intimacy, I don't know if I've ever used that term, the term intellectual intimacy. So we talk about emotional intimacy, and we talk about physical intimacy, and we talked about spiritual intimacy.
And we've heard that in a lot of places.
I never really used the term ever, intellectual intimacy. But as I researched this and did some study on it, like, oh, yes, we do work on our intellectual intimacy. We just don't call it that.
Right.
But we do. So it's really like last week we said it was the unspoken romance, because it's really not spoken about a lot. So, but we want to hear from you. How do you and your spouse nurture your intellectual intimacy? And as you start hearing these tips, you go, oh, yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
So this week we want to give you the first 6 tips on how to nurture your intellectual intimacy. And next week, we're going to give you 6 more tips on how to nurture your intellectual intimacy. So the first tip on how to nurture your intellectual intimacy is read and discuss a book together. Choose books that resonate with both of you and carve out time to immerse yourself in their pages, whether individually or reading aloud to one another. So that's a great way, Teresa, if you read a marriage book, or to come together, you can read a chapter together, or you can read it separately and then talk about it.
That's right.
Now, just whatever works for you. Every couple is different. Some couples love taking turns reading paragraphs. Other couples hate that.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't really have to. It doesn't have to be a marriage book. It doesn't have to really think spiritual. Maybe it's a biography of someone that you both admire, or maybe it's a subject that you both are interested in. And it doesn't have to be anything
deep. It doesn't have to be real deep, right?
Now, your wife may like romance novels, and you may like, and the guy may like Tom Clancy novels, and maybe that's not the book you guys want to choose, but it could be something you both have interest in.
That's right. That's good.
Now, after completing each chapter or book, share your reflections, emotions, and new ideas that stirred within you. Our friends, Trey and Lee Morgan, they suggest that, the guy can have a blue pen and the wife can have a pink pen.
Yeah.
And they can just kind of star, or they're reading a book, taking turns, they might want to underline something or put a star next to something that meant something to them. And then when they go back and read it together or share it together, why was that important to you?
That's a great tip.
And that way they can, it just stirs conversation, right?
It does. It really does. Like, why was that important to you? Why did that stand out to you?
Right.
Yeah, that's so good. So I like what you said, this next part. This act of reading and reflecting together opens the door to a deeper understanding of each other's hearts and minds. That's so important because, you're not just physical people. You're not just mental or spiritual. You're also emotional and mental and all of that together. So you need to understand each other's hearts and minds.
Right.
So this nurtures a deep spiritual connection that grows as you exchange insights and ponder the mysteries of life. That's so good.
And Psalm 133 verse 1 says, "How good and pleasant is it when God's people live together in unity." So this is just another tool another way, another pathway for couples to build unity in their marriage.
That's right. And it can be a spiritual book, like a devotion that you're reading together, or something more lengthy than just a short devotional paragraph. Maybe a book about an area you want to grow in spiritually, but having that exchange mentally and spiritually, you are deepening your relationship.
Right. It can be anything from a biography or a history book to, it can be anything, but something that you both say, oh, that interests me.
Right.
Or it could be a classic. It could be
classic.
a classic, a Mark Twain, or it can be a Charles Dickens, or it can be anything, really.
That's right. That's right.
Our second tip on how to nurture intellectual intimacy in marriage is attend workshop or classes together. Now, embarking on a shared journey or learning through workshops or classes can be a beautiful way to deepen your bond. Whether it's a spiritual retreat, a creative workshop, or a class in history or science, learning together not only nourishes your intellect, but also strengthens the connection between your souls.
That's so good. It's always nice to learn new things. Don't just get in the way. Well, we just do this work routine and our home routine and put the kids to bed. And, it's always great to be learning new things. And that challenges us and inspires us and helps us have things to look forward to. You don't want to be in a rut of just, we're in the same thing, week by week and year after year and nothing changes. That's not really growth. And we're always supposed to be growing, and of course growing together. I like that. Nourishing your intellect and strengthening the connection between your souls. That's so good. So through these shared experiences and the expansion of your knowledge, you both grow individually and as a couple, creating a sacred space where your spirits can flourish together.
Right. And these classes, there's a lot of museums that have classes, or maybe you want to go to a workshop at Home Depot where they talk about, I don't know, wallpaper or
if you're
something,
trying to do a project together.
Or flooring, or just like anything. Or maybe you have a local college that may have just a class or something, or someone's giving a lecture. It could be through the library. I mean, we're not talking about spending a lot of money on this activity, but something that you both have an interest in. It could be landscaping, it could be flowers, it can be paint, it could be just like anything, or decorating home, interior decorating. It could be just a lot of things that you both have an interest in, that you can attend together. It could be a lecture on history, or an event, or it could be anything that you two can attend together, that you both have an interest in.
Yes, that's so good. Oh, it could be about art too. We enjoy learning about new art.
Yeah, so your local, if you have a museum nearby, they may be having a lecture on an artist.
That's pretty fascinating.
A lot of museums have free days, and they have just ways to attend that is not. It doesn't cost a lot of money.
Exactly.
That you can take advantage of, and just go learn together.
That's right.
So our third tip on nurturing intellectual intimacy is share interesting articles. Make it a cherished practice to share thought-provoking articles or stories that spark curiosity. Now, this is a step above sharing reels that you think is funny on Instagram.
Oh, yes.
But something that is interesting. This simple yet meaningful gesture creates opportunities for engaging in conversations about a wide variety of topics, from the wonders of the natural world to the depths of art and philosophy.
That's so good. In these shared exchanges, you encourage each other's curiosity, nurturing an intellectual intimacy that fosters a deeper, more spiritual connection as you walk the path of discovery together. And I find that, sometimes newsworthy articles about something that's happening that we need to be educated on, that's something we should talk about together or read together and talk about, because he may see something or I may see something in an email or come across something on a website and like, oh, this would be helpful to know, like something that affects homeowners or something, that's happening in your city that you need to know, changes going on, or, anything like that. It's so good to be informed and share that information together. And it's discovering together. I like that, because if you look at your marriage as more like a journey and an adventure, it makes these things so much more fun than just saying, oh, okay, we got to share information and we got to have a serious conversation. It doesn't have to be heavy or anything like that.
Right. It doesn't have to be heavy. Our fourth tip on nurturing intellectual intimacy is start a hobby together. Find a shared passion that allows you both to explore the beauty of life through a new lens, such as bird watching, stargazing, or even playing strategic games. These activities invite you to learn, grow, and face new challenges together while deepening your mental connection.
That's so good. As you share your discoveries and insights, you're not just expanding your knowledge, but also nurturing a spiritual bond built on shared experiences and mutual growth. These moments of discovery become sacred as they open your hearts and minds to new possibilities and strengthen your partnership. That's so good.
Our fifth tip on nurturing intellectual intimacy is this. Discuss your day from an intellectual perspective. Go beyond, it's a bad day, it was a good day, I don't want to talk about it. Instead of simply recounting the events of your day, take a moment to reflect on them through a deeper intellectual lens.
That's good.
Share the lessons you learned, the challenges you've overcome, and new ideas that have sparked within you.
That's so good. I like that. And we are learning lessons every day, whether we realize it or not. So sometimes it helps to ask each other questions like, well, what do you think about that? How did it impact your attitude, or did it change the way you look at something? Helps for us to ask each other questions and bring that out a little more.
Yes.
So this practice encourages both partners to think more deeply about their experiences and fosters a greater sense of understanding and empathy. I really like that, because I need to understand, like where he is mentally, emotionally, physically, what kind of state he's in when he comes home from work. I don't want to just assume, oh, everything's okay, or everything's terrible,
Yeah.
Right?
You're not like Fred Flintstone.
Kind of have a good idea, right, where he is in that. But by engaging in this kind of reflective conversation, you strengthen not only your intellectual connection, but also your spiritual bond. As you learn to see each other's lives through a more thoughtful and compassionate perspective. Yeah, so we always used to say, put yourself in the other person's shoes,
Right.
and that really helps to have more understanding of what's going on with your spouse. Think about, well, what would I have done in that situation? How would that have impacted me? And, talk about it. That's
Yes.
so important.
That is so good. Our sixth tip on how to nurture intellectual intimacy is watch documentaries and discuss them. Watching documentaries is a beautiful way for couples to journey through new realms of knowledge, fostering deep and meaningful conversation. Choose topics that both of you feel drawn to, and after watching, reflect on what you learned. Share how these new insights influence your perspective and connect them to the broader wisdom you both carry.
That is so good. So this shared intellectual exploration not only expands your horizons, but also strengthens the spiritual bond between you as you align your thoughts and beliefs with a greater understanding of the world.
Teresa and I both enjoy watching documentaries by Ken Burns. He's done a lot of documentaries for public broadcasting system here in the United States, and he's done documentaries on the Civil War, on baseball, the Appalachians, the national parks. So find a subject that interests both of you and watch it together and then discuss it.
And I remember some years ago, we were both really drawn to watch his series about the Appalachians because Jeff's family has a lot of roots in Kentucky, which is right like in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. And for us, it was so eye-opening to see what happened in that area. I guess it was the Great Depression and some other things that happened, and the way that they were doing the mining and everything, it just depleted the area financially, and a lot of people just could not live there and stay there after some generations because there was no way to work. There was no way to support their families. So Jeff's family, probably your grandparents or great-grandparents, they were influenced by all of this. And your parents, had been living there. Well, your dad had been living there. And when things got depleted and all of that, he ended up moving your family to Chicago.
My father and a lot of his brothers moved to Chicago because there was jobs there. And even my mom's, her whole family moved to Chicago. Her parents, and when she was a little girl, they moved to Chicago while she was in high school when they moved to Chicago.
Right.
So they didn't live in Appalachia, but my mom's family lived in South Georgia. So that Chicago in the 50s had a lot of jobs, factory jobs. So they moved to Chicago for a better life.
Yes, and that impacted so many people in that time. You ended up growing up in your early childhood in Chicago instead of in the Appalachians. But it's great to go back there and visit, but you didn't want to be living there, right? Because some of it is still, kind of depressed and, didn't really make the comeback in some areas, but yeah, it really impacts a lot of people. And it, I had read about this in, I guess, some novels and different things before, but a lot of different countries actually migrated to the United States, and many different people ended up in that Appalachian area of the country. They didn't stay in just like New York City or, those coastal cities. They actually went to the mountains, the Appalachians, to find a really great place to grow a family and live and work. So it was, far as I know, like Irish, Italian, Scottish, German, so many different countries. Their people, ended up in that area. So it really could have been, a rich area. And I think some of it has come back. It's people have moved back there, and others just, like you said, went to big cities and found their means of living. But yeah, that just gave us so much more insight about your family and what you guys experienced. I mean, that was really impactful for you, and just like your parents both moved to Chicago from different places, that's like you and I both moved to the same part of the country and ended up meeting after we were grown. It's just really neat how the Lord just maneuvers people to where they need to be.
That's right.
It's amazing.
It's so good. So next week, we're going to talk about 6 more tips on how to nurture your intellectual intimacy.
That's right.
So join us next week for 6 more. Exciting news. Catch our audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Podcasts. We would love to hear your thoughts, so please leave us a review. Do you prefer watching? Head on over to YouTube and search for the Inspiring Marriages channel to see us in action. And for the ultimate convenience, listen with your smart device. Just say, Siri, play the Inspiring Marriages podcast. Join us wherever and however you prefer to tune in. This week's Friendship Builder. So this week's Friendship Builder continues on developing intimacy, and this week we developing intellectual intimacy. So this week for our assignment or our homework, choose a documentary that interests both of you. It could be anything. It could be on a sport. It can be on woodworking. It could be on anything. Landscaping, gardening. It could be anything. It could be a historical figure. It could be anything you want, but something that interests both of you. Maybe you both have ties to a European country, or maybe into Africa. It's just something that find a documentary that interests both of you.
That's right. I know a lot of people love the Animal Planet channel.
Oh, yeah.
I call it the Animal Channel. But they have really interesting documentaries. It's like a National Geographic kind of program a lot of times. So you can see something about, like you said, part of Africa, like what happens there with the safaris and the animals, or it could be Antarctica, or it could be, the Netherlands, just
Alaska.
Different areas of the world, Alaska. Yeah. They're really great.
Something that you both have an interest in. And not only just watch it together, you got to have a time of talking about it. What is
30 minutes of talking.
What is something that you saw and you heard and you learned, and share that with your spouse?
Yeah.
Guys, your wife wants you to share with her stuff like that. She loves that.
Oh, yes.
She loves you talking about things that you've learned. She really does. Don't you?
Yes.
Don't you, ladies?
Yes, we do. We definitely do. And conversation is always just so helpful in your relationship. Like we're saying, you're developing intellectual intimacy, but it also encourages intimacy in all the other areas, because we fell in love through talking. Like we always like to quote Jimmy Evans.
When you first started dating, you talked a lot.
Talked a lot.
You talked for hours. So you like to talk to each other. So
oh, yes.
You haven't shared everything about yourself. You haven't done it.
No.
You have not shared everything. So
that's right.
There's still more to share. Right. So this week's Friendship Builder is pick a documentary, watch it together, and then talk about it.
Stay connected with us across all platforms. Join our vibrant community on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe for the latest updates and behind-the-scenes moments.
Got something on your mind? Shoot us an email at inspiringmarriages@att.net. We're all ears for your questions or suggestions on how to enhance our podcast. And if you have any ideas on topics you'd love us to dive into next, let's keep the conversation going. And remember, husband and wife are friends for life.